Hello and welcome to Your Money and Real Estate. My name is Mark Vasilius. We're going to have a fantastic show today because we're going to be talking about what I think probably 90% of you want to talk about is how do I get started? I don't maybe necessarily have a lot of money. Everyone's talking about real estate and I want to learn how. I've got the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented Carrie Cook with me. She drove all the way down from Barrie. We're going to certainly talk about why she's investing in Barrie. But Carrie, welcome to the show and thanks for coming down. So Carrie, tell me a little bit about why you're on the show. Why do you think I called you on here? Tell me a little bit maybe how you got started kind of thing.
Well, I've been working in property management for about 4 years now, and as soon as we got started in that, we really wanted to purchase our first home. So we've been purchasing homes for the last 3 years and built a large portfolio of properties.
So when you say we, is that like you have
my
a
husband
huge
and
company?
I,
Oh, your husband and I.
Yes, we're partners, and we purchase with investors.
So you're partners in more way than one.
Yes.
How do you find that working relationship, working with your husband?
Actually, surprisingly, very good. Very good because we have complementary skills. So he does the building, the repairs, renovations, that sort of stuff, and I work on the sales, the purchasing, managing tenants, that sort of thing. So it's a good fit.
So you're handling, I guess, what we say, the finance side of things?
Yeah, the finance, management side, I guess.
And when you say you started off with managing, what do you mean? Embellish a bit about the managing side.
Well, I started off 4 years ago working for a property management company, and I worked as a tenant placement facilitator. So all I did was, find tenants for different buildings, different units throughout Simcoe County, and
yeah,
that was how I met you.
That's true. I think you helped me rent some of my places. I think that's right, and that's probably why you're on the show. Is that you found some great tenants. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think a lot of people out there, when they say, you know what, I want to buy my first property. They go tell their neighbor. Their neighbor says, forget it. It's a nightmare. I had this loser of a tenant. You did tenant placement for quite a number of people up there, and I happen to know quite a few of them. Tell me a little bit more about why you were successful at tenant placement.
Well, I'm not really sure, but I think it comes down to it's a sales thing. So it's all about building relationships, and I worked through it. It took a lot of, I have a skill now because I've done so many placements. So I really can get a good feeling on the spot of who is going to be that good tenant and who's a good fit for the property and that sort of thing. So,
well, when it sounds like you're speaking from the gut, there must be techniques or strategies or a checklist, because I think there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, you have to have a checklist and you go through this thing. Tell me a little bit how you would find.
I definitely have a checklist. So I'm always looking for a certain, not necessarily a certain type of person, but is the income there? Is the tenant going to stay long term?
Well, go
tenant
through
a good
that
fit
list
for the property and other tenants in that property, different things like that. But
have you gotten involved with student rentals like that? Those are probably
in the last year
the
I've
toughest.
been really doing student rentals in Barrie and Orillia, and I found actually that it wasn't as bad as I thought. I've seen student rentals be done wrong, and again, it just comes down to having the right tenant, the right group. I've had some.
I was going to say,
some.
When you show up, you haven't picked up a few beer bottles, the kind of thing?
No, we've had some. Yes, yes. But I think it's not so much the students. Actually, I find it's the parents, because they're not so supportive of the children, and they not my child. So
right.
Yeah, so it's hard when you don't get the parental support. But for the most part, I think we have about 60 doors that we manage and own.
60.
And so that's a lot of students, but for the most part, minimal problems.
And but when you mention there's income, you get post-dated checks, Go over that list again, because I want to start off by saying, okay, look, the number one fear or the number one negativity that people get about investing is they hear the nightmare stories, and you started off by dealing with the worst part of it, which is that finding the tenants and dealing with that. So and you seem pretty calm and relaxed, more calm and relaxed than me. So how did you end up sort of working through the worst part of it all?
Well, I think a lot, when I started out, I was working for a variety of properties and more lower income suites and those type of units.
Lower income, what that? I think we can talk about there.
That type of tenant profile and that type of property. And within a year and a half, I found that really wasn't a fit for me. I had a hard time renting those because for me, it wasn't where I fit. Like I wouldn't live in those units. That wasn't the same lifestyle match.
Right.
So when we purchased our first property, we based it on those same fundamentals, on what we would rent and what, if we were starting out, the kind of property that we would purchase. So we've always really started to focus the business on, higher quality rentals, really well maintained units, that attract the high quality tenant profile.
So you obviously you've rented the low income, but the properties that you're actually doing now, you're not doing that because you're simple. I guess if I can call it a rule of thumb, is if it's something that I'd live in, that's something I'd rent. Is that?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And every property we've purchased has been with that same basis, that it has to be something that we would live in and has to be maintained to our standards. So,
right.
I mean, probably costs more in the long run to do it that way, but there's a lot less headaches. And we don't get the calls every week, and sets the relationship up right on the right foot, because the tenants are moving in, the units are clean, they're all in good repair, everyone's happy, and from there on it's just a good relationship.
Yeah. Do you end up having, with getting back to the student rentals, you end up dealing with preferring to deal with the parents? Like, is that a rule of thumb?
I generally don't involve the parents unless it's I can't get any response from them, but generally I can get that from the students and get them to take care of it. And work their situations out.
And I guess that I mentioned that you're mainly focusing in on the Barrie Orillia area. And before the show we talked about, and a word that's a big buzzword in the real estate world is economic fundamentals. Tell me a little bit about the economic fundamentals. Like why, it seems like you're successful. So why is Barrie and Orillia treating you well for that side? Like what's happening?
We've really focused our Orillia market on student rentals. We've converted all of our apartments to doing just student rentals and renting to the student rental market.
Is there that much demand?
There is a limited supply. Like we found the ones we purchased this year were rented practically before we even closed them. So it's just hard to find a nice, decent property that's not run down and that you have a good landlord and everything. So we found that we were able to get large groups and to rent them, and the area is quite spread out in Orillia, so people will live wherever in town as long as you're on a bus route. We actually, all of our properties are all over town, so as long as you're on a bus route and it gets you to the school.
Where's all the students? Like,
there.
What do you mean student? Like, where are they?
Georgian College,
okay.
And we get a lot from Lakehead University, so degree programs and the Georgian degree program as well. So we get a lot of older, more mature students in that market, which we like.
Yeah, and how about Barrie? Is there?
Barrie, well, the Barrie properties, we don't own any student rentals in Barrie, but we do own single-family homes. I think it's a great market for single-family homes and young families to rent their first properties, and I really do like that. And
is there a lot of big changes happening in Barrie that would drive the economy to?
Well, I see with Mayor Jeff that there's going to be a lot of changes happening, and he just seems to really be supporting the growth and that sort of thing. And with the vacancy rate so low,
what are they now in Barrie?
I think it's 0.7 or something, like it's very low. So like the units rent really quick, single family homes. That there's a fair amount of competition, but if you have the nicest unit that hasn't been rented, and it's well maintained, then those rent easy.
So do you focus on a particular type of building, a single family home or multi or
in Barrie we actually own a variety. We own a number of student rentals now, duplex, triplexes, and a couple single families. So we do own a few different things. We're willing to purchase whatever. Our main strategy is to reno and refi. So whatever we can get at a good enough deal, add some equity through sweat and refinance. That's kind of where we fit it.
Well, we might have some people that might be interested in asking you some questions about how you got started and what you're doing. So remember, you can always give us a call or a call-in show. But Carrie, tell me a little bit more then about because you seem to know the Barrie Orillia area market so well. What would a single-family home? What's the average price, or what would, like when you mentioned, well, it's a good deal. What is a good?
Okay.
Wow. So starting with $5,000, that was your first deal, and then where'd the money come for the second deal?
The second deal was basically when we did the first deal, we legalized it, so we purchased for $250,000. We spent $5,000 on the renovations, and then we got it reappraised for $300,000.
Wow.
In 6 months.
And did you, in terms of the reno and the cost to register it with the city, how much did you have to put to do that?
Oh, it was $5,000 was the repair.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was already set up. The two laundry sets were there. The two kitchens were there. 2 4 bathrooms actually. There's 2 in each
So
suite.
the majority of the work was done.
The majority of the work was done. It was a wall and a little bit of drywall in the basement. So
Fire coating, that sounds a bit scary. Like, what is fire coating?
basically, you have to have so much fire separation drywall between the 2 units so that there'd be such a time delay between if there was ever a fire in one unit till it hit the other unit. So, any adjoining walls or doors have to be fire coated.
And is that an Ontario bylaw, or is it like in other words, a Newmarket or an Aurora?
It's with the building code, and it fits in there, and then the fire code. But we found from city to city the rules vary very slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that what they call fire separation. Each apartment needs to be separated. Okay, so your second building, you took out a little bit of money.
Yeah.
From the first.
Yeah.
And then you used exactly that money and bought into your second building then.
Yeah.
And what was your second building?
The second building is a triplex in Aurelia that we purchased from the owner, and they carry all the financing on it. So we never had to go to the bank, get a mortgage. We gave them.
And that special word is called? Free money.
VTB, creative financing, free money, whatever you want to call it. We gave them $10,000 instead of the 20% down that we needed. And they refinanced, took their equity out, and they hold the mortgage for us. We make the payments to cover their mortgage taxes and insurance every month. And we basically has been hands off for them. We've taken care of the tenants and
all right, we're just going to take a quick break. Carrie, we'll be right back, and we're going to hear from Carmen from ProFunds in 1 minute.